Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is part 3 of our True Crime with a Twist series. The case that we're covering today is one that shocked an entire school. On February 27, 1982, 14-year-old Johnny Gosch went missing from his hometown of West Allis, Wisconsin. Johnny was a freshman at West Allis Central High School, and at the time of his disappearance he was working part-time for the local newspaper doing paper routes. Johnny's mother, Mary Gosch, dropped him off at their home on February around 3:30 p.m. He then left their home to walk to a friend's house so they could work on their paper route together. It was around this time that someone called the police to report seeing two boys matching Johnny's description being forced into the back of a van by a man who looked to be in his late 20s or early 30s. When the police arrived at the scene, they found Johnny's bike and the blue canvas bag that he used to carry his newspapers still sitting there. But no sign of Johnny or any suspects. So they began searching for Johnny and put out an APB for the suspicious vehicle and its driver. Around 6 p.m., a Milwaukee police officer spotted a car matching the description given by the witness. The officer pulled over the car and found Johnny in the back seat. At first, Johnny said that he wasn't being held against his will. He said that he had gotten into an argument with his mom and ran away from home. He also said that the man who had been driving the car, David Schulhofer, had given him a ride after he'd asked for one. This led the officer to let Johnny go and reunite him with his mother. For the next few days, the police followed David Schulhofer, who was also known as Papa Bear, because he was a bear of a man weighing 250 pounds and stood 6'2". They also searched his home, but found nothing that tied him directly to Johnny. After 2 days of surveillance, the police released him without charging him. In May of 1982, almost 3 months after Johnny went missing, detectives interviewed him again, this time without his mother present. During this interview, Johnny told them a completely different story than the one he gave them before. He said that while he was walking to his friend's house on February, a man in a van offered him a ride. Johnny got in the van not realizing that it was a trick. The man drove him to an apartment where other men were waiting for him. He said that he was kept there for 3 days, during which time he was drugged, sexually assaulted, and photographed. Then the men let him go. The police began searching for the apartment that Johnny described, but none of them matched what Johnny had told them. Eventually, Johnny told them that he couldn't remember exactly what the apartment looked like. He only remembered that there were bars on the window. Well, that didn't exactly narrow anything down because most apartments built after 1940 didn't have bars on their windows. The police never did find the apartment that Johnny described. In July of 1982, about 5 months after Johnny went missing, he told the police a new story. He said that while he was walking home from his friend's house, a man and a woman in a van offered him candy. He declined the candy, but the couple insisted that he take it. Then the couple tried to lure him into their van. When he refused, the man grabbed him and forced him inside. Just like before, he was taken to an apartment where other men were waiting for him. This time, Johnny described the man who had taken him as shorter and balding, whereas before he said that the man was tall and blond. The police were no closer to finding the apartment that Johnny described, so they decided to check every apartment building in the area to see if they could find a place that matched Johnny's description. One detective even went as far as checking buildings in neighboring towns. The police also brought in an artist to make a composite sketch of the kidnapper based on Johnny's description. However, despite the efforts of the police, the apartment was never found, and the case went cold. For the next 14 years, nobody heard from Johnny. He moved to Las Vegas with his family. Then in August of 1996, he resurfaced. Johnny had shown up at the house of a former neighbor, claiming that he hadn't seen her since 1982. He told her that he'd returned to West Allis to look for his old friends. She invited him in for dinner, but after learning that he was homeless, she lent him $20 and let him stay in a motel. Before leaving, he promised to write her letters updating her on how his life was going. The neighbor eagerly awaited the arrival of those letters, but they never came. A few weeks later, she saw a news report about Johnny. He'd gone missing again. This time, he'd been spotted hitchhiking in Florida. When the police finally tracked him down, they brought him back to West Allis. They questioned him about why he had lied to them about his kidnapping. At first, he said that he made it all up to get away from his parents. But then he changed his tune and said that he was actually kidnapped and that he was afraid that if he told the police the truth, he'd be put back into that situation. The police weren't buying his story, especially since a polygraph test showed that he was being deceptive. So they let him go. In September of 1996, less than a month after returning him to Wisconsin, Johnny disappeared again. He was spotted hitchhiking near San Diego. The police there picked him up and brought him to the nearest hospital where doctors determined that he was suffering from schizophrenia. They sent him back to Wisconsin with a full mental health evaluation. In the evaluation, it said that Johnny was extremely disorganized and delusional, that he suffered from flashbacks and auditory hallucinations, and that he couldn't tell the difference between reality and fantasy. The psychologist who evaluated him believed that Johnny truly believed he had been kidnapped and sexually assaulted, but that he had made the whole thing up. In January of 1997, Johnny went missing for the third and final time. The police don't know where he is to this day. And, to make matters worse, neither of his parents are willing to talk to the police, which has left investigators with more questions than answers. So here's the thing. I've read conflicting reports about whether Johnny is still missing or not, and whether he's alive or dead. Some sources say that he died in January of 1997, while others say that he's still alive. And I can't seem to find anything online about his death. Not only that, but some articles mention that Johnny's body has never been found, but that his cause of death was drowning. So, unless his body just magically appeared after all these years, I'm inclined to believe that he's still out there somewhere. But what I do know for sure is that something happened to him. His behavior changed drastically after he disappeared in 1982. It's obvious from the multiple stories that he told the police that he was traumatized by whatever happened to him. I don't think he made the whole thing up because he wanted to get away from his parents. Sure, he might have had issues with them, but no child would go through what Johnny did if it meant they wouldn't have to live with their parents anymore. If he had been in that much danger, why wouldn't he have told the police the truth? I mean, I understand that he probably thought that doing that would put him back in danger, but he was a teenager when this happened to him. I doubt that he thought things through very well. And the fact that he gave the police 3 completely different stories shows that whatever happened to him happened more than once. So he obviously wasn't just making it up. I also don't think that he was hallucinating when he talked about his kidnapping. I'm no expert on mental illness, but I highly doubt that someone who is mentally ill would be able to hold a job. And Johnny worked several jobs over the years, including being a cook, a security guard, and a construction worker. Additionally, when he was interviewed about his kidnapping, he gave specific details about dates and times. Someone with schizophrenia shouldn't be able to keep track of that sort of thing. I personally believe that Johnny was kidnapped and sexually assaulted, but that he was put in a situation where he was manipulated into thinking that it never happened. I'm sure that the people responsible for his kidnapping brainwashed him to think that it wasn't a big deal, that he should keep quiet about it, or that it was his fault. There's a reason why they call it Stockholm Syndrome. It happens for a reason. Johnny's case was probably one of those situations where the victim ends up defending the perpetrator. That's all for this video. Please hit that thumbs up button if you liked it. I'll see you next time.